It's Thursday morning on Buckeye Breakdown, 48 hours before Ohio State will kick off their home opener against the Youngstown State Penguins. It's certainly not the biggest game on the schedule, a game Ohio State is expected to win comfortably. But what can we learn about the Buckeyes, and what do you need to know about this Ohio State team going into their first game of the season at the Shoe? And what did we learn about practice last night? In addition to let's get you set up on a little Penguin prep. What you need to know about Youngstown State as they come to town and what the Buckeyes might expect to see from the Penguins. All coming up next on Buckeye Breakdown.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown. I'm Brendan Gulick along with Anthony Moeglin, live at 7 a.m. every weekday morning all season long as we talk Ohio State football. You can watch this podcast live right here on our YouTube channel, or if you're listening after the fact, wherever you like to find your favorite podcasts, that's cool too. But know that we'd love to have you live sometime, and you can certainly drop some questions in the comment section. We'll try to get to those along the way. Of course, we're affiliated with Sports Illustrated and the Fan Nation Network, BuckeyesNow.com, all your latest, all the updated news and info on the team. So head over there and check out the website. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel and continue to support what Anthony and I are trying to build for you as we try to put together a channel we think you can be really proud of the Ohio State coverage that we'll put out there. So that's who we are and where we are if you're just joining us for the first time. Anthony, obviously it was a good week one in the sense that the Buckeyes won. And the conversation all week long has been, well, is that good enough? Or should the offensive line have played better? Or how much better could Devin Brown play than Kyle McCord if only he got a chance? All week it's been, some superlative conversation for sure. And I think at this point now, there's a lot of people that have had maybe some of that stuff taper off just a little bit and say, okay, look, it was a 20-point win on the road in conference. Not the worst thing in the world. We didn't need to win the national championship on September 2nd. Let's just figure out a way to get better this week. And we've got an opponent coming to town this week that the Buckeyes should look pretty good against.
Yeah, not only did you not win the national championship in week one, you can't. This is what a season's about. It's about, going through some things early, correcting them and getting better from them. Like if you would have went out and went perfect, and everything looked good, and you scored 35 points or 42 points, and then you have two kind of weeks back to back that may not be the most challenging opponent. Maybe some of that stuff wouldn't have shown its face, and then it would appear first against Notre Dame. So you got to see some stuff that you need to correct, which is good. You did it in a win. At the end of the day, it's 1-0. You're not 0-1. The sky is not falling. Definitely correct some stuff, but that's what a football season is. And that's where Ohio State's at. And I think that, like you said, the conversation's starting to shift. Like, okay, could be worse. Yeah, could have been much better, but it's supposed to be that way, and it's going to get better.
So we heard from 8 players after practice yesterday, and I think Cade Stover probably said it best. First of all, he used the word homeboy, which had me laughing. But he basically said, you think some homeboy in his basement that said, wow, you guys suck. Like, you think that bothers us? It's like, we don't care. What is concerning to us is only what goes on in the Woody. Who was it? I think it may have been Julian Fleming that said, it's the Woody against the world. I mean, it's a close team. It's a locker room that I think has their mind in the right place. Josh Fryer said, yeah, the offensive line didn't play that great. We need to play better. But they didn't play horrendous. It just wasn't good. And, I think it's okay to have games at the beginning of the season where you don't look unbelievable. Did other teams find, quote unquote, that gear? Did Oregon score 80 points? Yeah. Did Oklahoma, run train over, unfortunately, what looks like a pretty bad Butch Jones team down in Arkansas at Arkansas Tech. Arkansas State.
Mhm.
Yeah, it dropped 73 points on them. So there were some teams around the country that looked pretty good, but Ohio State's defense also gave up the fewest yards of any top 25 team that played last weekend. So I don't think we should be that concerned.
Yeah, no, and the vibes that you were telling me about, you were down there yesterday, you said it seemed relaxed. Like the guys seemed to be in a great headspace coming off practice, in a great headspace talking to the media. And that's what you love to hear. And there's no reason to be walking around, nervous. Everything that we hear and we see in the world that we live in, it's like, oh my gosh, this team is terrible. Kyle McCord never pick up football again, that type of stuff. But inside that team, inside that group, inside those walls, we're good. Like we're fine. Correct the stuff that needs to be corrected, and just block everything out. Block us two talking heads out. Block all the Twitter guys out. Just block it all out because for them it doesn't matter. It doesn't help them, and it doesn't hurt them. So just don't listen to it. And that's a great mindset. It sounded like the mindset that you felt and the energy that you felt down there was more on the positive side. Where the guys were worried about, hey, we're going to get better. We weren't where we need to be. Let's take steps forward to get a lot better next week.
Yeah, I actually, considering how focused this group had appeared at times over the last several weeks, we're not allowed to attend practice, but we walk into the indoor facility after practice officially ends, and then the guys kind of trickle in from outside. And it felt looser to me than even normal. There were a lot of happy faces, guys having fun with each other. I mean, it just was like you could feel the camaraderie, if you want to think about it that way. And I was glad to see that because for a team that won a first game, some of the reaction didn't really feel like they won. And I think there's an element of, man, you got to have some fun doing this because it ain't life or death. And those guys seemed to enjoy the day yesterday, and I hope that continues. I'm sure they had a hard practice Tuesday and Wednesday. It's pretty typical.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I talked about this. Like, this sport's hard. Football's hard. It doesn't matter who you're playing or what you're playing against. Like, it's a hard sport, and it's hard to win. And sometimes you lose that, being at the program level that Ohio State is, where it's like, hey, a win's not even good enough. You have to look great in a win. No, just get the win. Just win the football game and then win the next one. That's what it's about. Whoa, they're going to correct a lot of those things. And but you love to hear. I personally loved hearing that because there could have been, it could have been justified for, vibes to be real low and, the guys to be really stressed out and not nervous, but having that nervous energy, kind of walking around the practice facility. But it's good. Keep it loose and get ready to take care of some business this weekend.
Before we dive into this coming weekend, the big news yesterday in the Ohio State, fan circle, former Buckeye Nick Bosa, not a bad day. $170 million. I think that's what I saw.
Yep.
Is that like the highest defensive contract I've ever seen?
Ever. Yeah. Joey Smallbear, I think that's his that's his Twitter handle. Big bag for the Small Bear. I mean, he got paid yesterday. That was really cool to see. I think it's going to be like $34.5 million a year, which is pretty darn good when you get after the quarterback the way that he does. That's pretty good. Now, for me, living up in Cleveland, I hope he dresses and plays against the Steelers on Sunday. That'd be pretty good.
Wouldn't hate that at all.
Yeah.
The reality is you could absolutely argue when he is full-blown healthy that he might be the best non-quarterback in the league. He's certainly in that conversation. So happy for him. That's very cool. And, that's why guys come to Ohio State because they want to be developed so that they can be high-end draft picks and have a chance to, go to the league and make life-changing money. And not everybody's going to make $170 million, but that is pretty darn cool. So.
Yeah, that was awesome. The awesome news, and just add it to the list of things when recruits come to town. Be like, hey, look at the highest-paid defense player ever, graduate of Ohio State or attended Ohio State, played for us. So
yeah, and the reality is the 49ers were awfully close to screwing that up because the way I saw it, and Nick Bosa had all the leverage, and the 49ers thought, maybe we'll negotiate with him. He could have walked to any one of the other 31 locker rooms around the nation, and they'd have paid him whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately that probably cost San Francisco a little cash.
Yeah. But still great for him. It's great,
No doubt.
Great news to see there.
No doubt. All right, let's talk about the Penguins. We haven't done this earlier in the week. Usually we would. I just get the impression that a lot of our fans are probably not dying to know what Youngstown State's going to present, but we try to get you ready on the show. So we'll spend a few minutes on it. What can we expect from the Penguins, Anthony?
Yeah. So we went way in depth last week against Indiana. Won't go quite as detailed here today, but I think this Youngstown State team, when they're playing their competition, is going to be a tough team to beat. Maybe not necessarily on Saturday against Ohio State, but I think they bring some things to the table that I like, and that look pretty good. So they're coming off a 52-10 win over Valparaiso on Saturday, and it was actually a little bit closer than that. It was 17-10 at halftime, and they went on a 28-0 third quarter run. Fueled by four turnovers that they forced, one blocked kick that was returned for a touchdown, and 3 fumbles. So on offense, what you're going to see from them is more of a West Coast spread style offense. You're going to see a lot of shotgun, but they're not going to be slinging it and letting it rip the whole game. So their quarterback last week, guy by the name of Mitch Davidson, he's an Ohio guy, played at Salem High School, from Salem, Ohio. But he was 11-19 for 130 yards and a touchdown on Saturday, and last year only threw for 1,600 yards. So you can kind of get an idea of, hey, they're in the shotgun, but everything kind of goes through the run game. And up front, you're going to see in the run game a lot of zone principle stuff. So it's going to be a lot of RPOs where they can throw it off of a run look. It's going to be a lot of stretches and inside and mid zone stuff where you're not going to see a lot of pulling guards or pulling tackles, but it's going to be more of the combo blocks, getting up to the second level and trying to make space for their running backs. So a couple guys to look out for on offense. Obviously, I mentioned the quarterback, Mitch Davidson. He'll wear number 14. Guy who had a great game last week against Valpo. Running back number 10, Tyshawn King. Smaller guy. He transferred from a small school conference, went to North Michigan, which is in the GLIAC. But finished with 11 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns on Saturday. And then 2 solid receivers. They're going to be wearing number 2 and number 0. Number 2, C.J. Charleston, had 4 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. He's a former Gilmore Academy Lancer, so from the Cleveland area. And then number 0, Bryce Oliver, led the team with 6 catches for 65 yards on Saturday afternoon. So great opportunity for the defenses to continue what they're doing. Just continue the action that they had and the performance that they had last week, and with a really good opportunity to just post a 0. Don't let them get in the end zone. And again, I don't think there's going to be a threat, a big play threat, but let's keep that in the back of our minds. Like, hey, a successful day is no explosives and no big plays, and keep that train really rolling.
Yeah, and for as much as you can control it, find a way to get out of the game healthy. Mm-hmm. As much as I want to watch Tommy Eichenberg and Sonny Styles and Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau and Mike Hall play, I am equally as excited to see some depth on defense this week. Let's see some Caden Curry and Jaden McKenzie and maybe CJ Hicks. We didn't really see CJ, last week. I know there's a lot of hype around him, and he's supposed to be a pretty darn good player. In a system where you got 2 linebackers and Tommy and Steele are basically where they're supposed to be all the time. Like, Jim Knowles isn't going to just play guys to play guys. He's got to, and actually that's a decent point, because if you think about where Jim Knowles has been in his career prior to Ohio State, I don't know that he's ever had the depth, certainly at linebacker, that he's got here. And so, maybe he needs to find a way to make a more concerted effort to get game reps for linebacker depth. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. He certainly seemed to press the right button last week because the defense played great, and I don't blame him for not wanting to take Tommy and Steele off the field. And there's some other guys in the secondary too. Same thing. Like let's see what some of those second team guys look like.
Absolutely, and you need to do that because we love what Steele and Tommy bring to the table, but linebacker is such a physical position. It just takes one play, and then CJ's in there every down. So this is such a good opportunity. And the more veteran guys love these games too because they have a goal in mind. Let's get through a quarter or let's get through whatever their goal is because their goal is set. And coach certainly isn't taking this game lightly. They're this week not playing to the scoreboard. They're playing to some standards. No turnovers, no points scored on defense, all these things that they probably have up on their board. And their starters want to make sure that they get in, get their work in, get a couple game reps in just to stay fresh and then get some of those backups in because like you said, it's a huge developmental day for a team as a whole, just to figure out, hey, who's behind our starters and who can we rely on in the, break glass in case of emergency situations that are certainly going to come, down the road.
I don't expect that. Give me 1 second here. I need to go off camera for 1 second. I'll tell you what. Let's go right to the Let's go right to the Youngstown State defense.
Yeah, we'll flip it over to the defensive side, and this is, I think, a great opportunity for the Ohio State offense because what we'll be seeing is a really base defense, okay? So it'll be a 4-3 scheme, right? 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. And when you have that, what they'll do often is roll a safety into the box, okay? So they'll roll a guy down to add an extra hat in the run game if they're concerned about that. But it gives you the ability to play a number of different coverages. When they roll a guy down, you have 1 safety high, so you'll be seeing some cover 3 looks where there's 1 safety in the middle and then 2 corners on the outside patrolling the thirds. Or they'll play man-to-man coverage, right? We'll play cover 1 where there's 1 safety and everyone's manned across the board. Or if they stay in if it becomes a more passing situation, you'll play with 2 safeties back, and then you'll play what's called quarters coverage, where everyone takes a quarter of the field. So you love that as an offense because the throwing gaps and the throwing lanes are massive. Not only are we're going to be a superior team on the offensive side of the ball as far as talent and athleticism go, but with the scheme that they play, there's just holes everywhere. And how they do it, they're all everything underneath when they do drop into coverage is all what is called spot droppers. So they don't drop to guys. So oftentimes you'll see a linebacker set and find a receiver and drop towards that receiver. These guys are what are called spot droppers, where they know I have to get 5 yards back to 2 yards from the sideline, and they just go there. So there's 2 different ways to coach it, and that's how they do theirs. When you do something like that, it opens up a lot of stuff because, you're not seeing what you're covering. And I don't necessarily agree with the tactic, but it's what they do. So what does that mean for us? Be smooth. That's what it means. There's going to be some things that you're going to see. I'm hopeful that coach lets the ball fly a little bit. I think that's needed. I think that, we can be all positive. They can be all positive after practice and everything, but there's still that question lingering in the back of everyone's mind. Like, Kyle didn't look great. Let's get it fixed and let's get him some confidence. Like, guess what? He's reading Twitter. He's seeing all this stuff. That's just the world we live in. And it's unfortunate and it stinks sometimes, but he needs some confidence in himself. So let's build that for him. Let's get him some early, easy completions. Let's get Marvin in the end zone in the first quarter so that we can wrap him in bubble wrap. See you next week. But let's just build some of that confidence in your quarterback and in himself so that he can, continue to get better and continue to prepare himself for some more, high-profile games. So one guy to look out for on their defense, their linebacker number 3, his name's Alex Howard. Finished last week, 9 tackles, 3 TFLs, and 2 sacks. So was kind of wreaking some havoc in the backfield and getting after the ball. So keep an eye out for number 3. But I think a ton of opportunity to correct everything that we saw and everything that they saw on tape on the offensive side from last week.
I'm looking forward to seeing opportunities for G. Scott, maybe in a more primary tight end role. I really hope we get to see some second string offensive linemen because even when we went to backup skill position guys last week, starting offensive line played, and maybe that was a condemnation of where the line is right now. I'm not sure, but I hope guys like Luke Montgomery don't just come in as the third tight end in a package. Maybe Luke actually gets some run.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Dallin Hayden gets some touches this week. There's only one football. It's hard to get everybody out there. I'd love to see Evan Pryor, given what he's gone through. You kind of know what you got in Trey and in Mayan and Chip Trainum. So opportunities to see Evan Pryor and Dallin Hayden, I think, would be awesome. Xavier Johnson at least is touching the ball on kick returns, but same story. I mean, especially depending upon the formation, it's a little difficult for him to get in the game right now because he's not a top 4 wide receiver on the team, maybe the 4th, but he's certainly not top 3. So, I want to see what those guys look like too. And I hope from a starter's perspective, I guess I hope to see the most out of Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons. I just want to see better communication this week and see those guys execute. And I don't want to just suddenly say like, oh, it's an FCS opponent and those guys are terrible and Ohio State should beat them by 70. With respect to the opponent you're playing for, it's like that. It's not like they're not trying. Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons have to go into the game with their mind right, with the expectation that they're going to be rock solid on the left side of the line and go do it.
Yeah, there should be no pressure on the quarterback this week. That you should be able to run the ball the way you need to run the ball. And, it goes back to what Coach Day said on Sunday or his first media availability is, hey, we need to move people. We need to be physical up front. So let's do that. Let's go. I don't care who it is. Just go out, be physical, move the line of scrimmage, run the football well and effectively, and then don't let anybody get after the quarterback. Like Kyle shouldn't be touched on Saturday. That's certainly a goal for that offensive line in that room. Kyle shouldn't be touched, shouldn't be under pressure in the least. But it is an exciting opportunity for these guys to do that, to get better, to build some confidence in themselves that they can be pretty good.
We really haven't talked too much about one thing in particular this week. And again, I don't want to think too much back on last week because it's last week at this point, but I didn't think Marvin and Emeka were super engaged in the run game. But there were some moments where they just weren't 100% locked in, when they needed to block in the run game. And I'm simultaneously looking to see them more engaged this week and also looking to see them not on the field. It's like as soon as Ohio State goes up by 2 touchdowns, I really don't want to see them anymore. I don't know that Ryan Day will pull the plug that fast. I would imagine realistically, I think the starters are going to probably play the first half.
Yeah.
I just don't, unless somehow you go up 35 rip in the early second quarter. I think it's going to be difficult for Ohio State to justify pulling all of their starters off the field at least a good chunk of the way through the second quarter.
Oh, yeah.
And realistically, dude, maybe even the first drive of the third quarter. We've seen that a lot.
Yeah, you see that often because, hey, a big thing, in a football game, and they call it the first 4, right? The first 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 of the first half and the first 4 of the second half. That's huge, like going to the locker room, making adjustments, and then coming out. So you always see that. And my guess is, you're not gonna just see these guys for a quarter. But you will see them probably for a half. And then you get some of the other guys in. I'm excited to see Carnell Pate, Brandon Innes at receiver. Like, I think those guys will get some run on Saturday, which would be cool. And you get to see some different guys touching the ball and building that depth. Hopefully, if things go well, hopefully we're seeing that, towards the end of the game on Saturday.
The last thing for me, just Jaden Fielding, the kicker that we actually had a chance to talk with yesterday. God, what a nice kid. I mean, a really down-to-earth, good, cool dude. Mm-hmm. And, somebody who came to Ohio State as a walk-on because he felt like he wanted to see what he was made of. And he said, look, I just wanted to bet on myself. And he won the job. So he's going to go kick in Ohio Stadium. He said he gets more nervous to kick in front of home fans than on the road. So I guess he'll put that to the test.
Yeah.
But he did a great job on Saturday. He hit all 3 field goals and both extra points. He said he's comfortable from 60 yards and in. It's a big range to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I hope we don't have to see him try to rip a 58-yarder.
No.
But Okay, that's where you're comfortable. Or hey, buddy, we're going to hold you to that standard.
Yeah, it's good to have. It's good to have that, I guess, in the quiver. I guess have that arrow in there. But I'm no kicking expert by any means. But what I did see from him is that hit a couple. I think he hit one from 43 on Saturday, and it was crushed. I mean, it went through halfway to the upper half of the way up of the net, if you will, behind the upright. So dude can crush the football, and he can really hit it well. So it was exciting to see, and it's exactly what you wanted to see from your kicker. Like, hey, you don't want to really get off that inside pole, right? That crossbar. So his kicks were right down the center, and they were hit with a lot of power. So encouraging to see. Hopefully, like you said, we don't need to see it from 60, but if we get a 50-yarder in there, that wouldn't be bad.
He he transferred to IMG Academy. He basically said that his high school experience was solid, but he felt like he needed some additional opportunities because he said we were a decent team, but we weren't, we were playing some really, really good teams, and he wasn't getting a lot of game opportunities to kick. So we went to IMG, and I don't think you go to IMG Academy unless you're pretty serious about your athletic pursuits. So hopefully this is the start of a really cool thing for Jaden. It would be great to have a kicker you can really lean on. That's for sure. And I will say one other thing about him. He said, look, I don't really want to compare myself necessarily like directly to him, but he said, I kind of feel like the guy I most want to model after this team is Xavier Johnson. The whole walk-on mentality and trying to, earn your stripes, if you will. He had a big smile on his face when he said Xavier's name, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really neat, and you just love to see it. You love those kinds of stories, whether it's a kicker or defensive back or receiver, whatever. Those stories are really cool all the time. So good for him. Now just make your kicks, brother.
All right, Buckeyes and Penguins, 48 hours away. Ohio State on Tuesday and Wednesday have tough practices, and certainly seemed like they were in a good place when they were coming off the practice field last night. Excited to see him get out in front of the home crowd. And by the way, see the best damn band in the land, because they didn't make the trip to Bloomington last weekend. It'd be nice to see the band here in the shoe this weekend. So that should be fun. Obviously, kickoffs at 12 noon. If you don't know, the game is on Big Ten Network, so you can find it on BTN, which means you don't have to worry about any of the ESPN, Disney, ABC nonsense that's going on with Spectrum right now. That's not a lot of fun for anybody. But the good news is Big Ten Network's got you covered. So 12 noon on BTN on Saturday. We'll be there. Can't wait to cover the game for you. We'll give you plenty of stuff pregame and postgame. And, of course, we'll be with you again tomorrow morning as we give you some keys to the game and some final thoughts here before the game kicks off on Saturday afternoon. One last point of note, I suppose. We will hear from Ryan Day today. 12 noon on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Ryan Day has his weekly radio show, so you can catch that. And then he'll do a quick, they call it a lightning round with the media. He'll answer, maybe 10 minutes worth of questions. It's not a full-blown press conference. He'll jump on a Zoom with everybody when he finishes up on the radio show. That should be right around 12:40, maybe 12:45. So if Ryan Day says anything that is breaking news, shocking, we'll make sure to relay it to you. I wouldn't expect anything too dramatic, but I suppose you never know. All right. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Brendan Gulick. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Ohio State and Youngstown State, 2 days away as Buckeyes get ready for home opener.